The Merchant and the Elf, Part 5. Home. By midday, Tobin had decided there were 3 things he disliked about Cale. The first was that the man apparently did not tire. They had travelled through Blackmere for the better part of the night, stopped only long enough to let Bishop drink and Leora's wound be dressed, and then continued north as soon as there was enough light to distinguish road from forest. Tobin's back hurt. His eyes burned, and every muscle in his body seemed to have filed a separate complaint. Cale walked beside the carriage as though they had left Greyhaven 10 minutes ago. The second thing Tobin disliked was that Cale knew things, not useful things like the price of lamp oil in Belcross, or how to determine whether someone had watered wine before selling it. Cale knew the sort of things that became useful precisely when Tobin wished they weren't. He knew which mushrooms growing along the Blackmere Road would kill a man before supper. He knew how to identify a king's warden by the pattern of rivets along his armour. He knew that the enormous tracks they had discovered beside the river belonged to something called a marsh troll. And when Tobin asked how he knew, Cale had simply answered that he had killed one. Tobin had not asked a second question. The third thing he disliked about Cale was currently walking beside him. Liora. More specifically, the fact that Cale kept making Liora laugh. "You're doing it again," Liora said. Tobin glanced toward her. She sat beside him on the driver's bench, one hand resting over the bandage beneath her clothing. Some colour had returned to her face since morning, although exhaustion still showed around her eyes. "Doing what?" "Looking behind us. It's a dangerous forest." "You're not looking at the forest." Tobin's eyebrows lifted. "What else would I be looking at?" Leora's brown and green eyes moved deliberately toward Cale. The warrior was several yards behind the carriage, examining something along the road. Tobin immediately faced forward. "I don't know what you're suggesting." A smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "I didn't suggest anything. You were about to. I wasn't. You had the expression." "What expression?" "The one you get before saying something irritating." Leora's smile widened. "You've known me 2 days. They've been unusually long days." She laughed softly. Tobin clicked his tongue at Bishop and encouraged him forward. Behind them, Cale called, "Merchant." Tobin's shoulders sank. "What?" "Stop. I would prefer not to. Stop." Tobin pulled the reins. Bishop immediately halted and looked almost grateful. Cale crouched beside the road. Liora climbed down. Tobin watched her walk toward him, then he reluctantly followed. "What is it?" Liora asked. Cale touched 2 fingers to the mud. "Tracks." Tobin folded his arms. "We're on a road." Cale looked up. "Very good." Liora smiled. Tobin looked at her. "Don't encourage him." Cale stood. 6 horses, maybe 7. Tobin's amusement disappeared. "Wardens?" "Could be." "How old?" Cale looked toward the trees. "Less than a day." Leora's hand moved unconsciously toward the key beneath her clothing. Tobin noticed. So did Cale. For a moment, all 3 were quiet. Then Cale looked north. "We need to move." Tobin frowned. "You said there was a fortress." "There is." "How far?" "Half a day." "And after that?" Cale looked toward Liora. "Ellerin." Something changed in her face. Tobin saw it immediately. "Home," she whispered. Cale nodded. "If we keep moving, we could reach the border before nightfall tomorrow." Liora looked north. For the first time since Tobin had discovered her crouching behind his merchandise, he saw something in her that he had not seen before. Hope. It transformed her. Her shoulders loosened, her eyes brightened. Even the exhaustion in her face seemed to retreat. "We can make it?" Cale smiled. "We'll make it." Liora stepped toward him and wrapped her arms around him. Tobin's eyebrows rose. Cale seemed equally surprised. Then his arms closed around her. Tobin looked away immediately. He became fascinated by a tree. It was an ordinary tree, possibly the most interesting tree he had ever seen. When Tobin finally looked back, Liora had released Cale. She caught Tobin watching. He quickly pointed toward the road. "We should move." Her expression became suspiciously amused. "Yes." Tobin returned to the carriage. Cale walked beside him. "You all right?" "Wonderful." "You don't look wonderful." "This is simply my face." Cale studied him. "Were you jealous?" Tobin stopped. Liora continued toward the carriage. Tobin slowly turned toward Cale. "Of what?" Cale's mouth curved. Tobin stepped closer and lowered his voice. "Listen to me, you unnecessarily large bastard. I have known that woman for approximately 2 days. She hid in my carriage, got blood on my blankets, brought the king's wardens into my life, redirected me through a haunted forest, and caused small green monsters to attempt to eat me." Cale nodded thoughtfully. "So yes." Tobin's eyes narrowed. "No." Cale laughed and slapped him on the shoulder. Tobin nearly stumbled. He glared after him. That made 4 things. They reached the fortress shortly before sunset. Calling it a fortress was generous. Most of the eastern wall had collapsed into the ravine beneath it, and vines covered what remained of the towers. The enormous wooden gates had rotted from their hinges long ago, leaving an open mouth into a courtyard where trees now grew between cracked stones. Still, it had walls. After Blackmere, walls felt luxurious. Cale checked the ruins before allowing them inside. Tobin built a small fire while Liora fed Bishop. They ate dried meat, hard bread, and several apples Tobin had been saving for Belcross. He mourned the apples privately. For a while, nobody spoke. The silence was different now, not uncomfortable. Tobin realized sometime during supper that he had become accustomed to having them near him. That concerned him. He had spent years learning how not to need people. Apparently, it had taken Liora 2 days and Cale half of one to begin undoing the work. Cale sat opposite them, sharpening his sword. Liora leaned against a stone with her legs tucked beneath her. Tobin looked at the fire. "Why were you looking for me?" Cale's whetstone stopped. Liora looked between them. Cale resumed sharpening. "I told you." "The harness?" "At first." Tobin waited. "And afterward?" Cale looked up. "I heard your name in Belcross." Tobin frowned. "My name?" "Someone was asking about a merchant from Greyhaven." Liora straightened. Tobin's expression changed. "Who?" "I don't know. Man? Woman? Man." "What did he look like?" Cale shrugged. "Never saw him." Tobin leaned forward. "Then how do you know?" "Because 3 different merchants mentioned it. Someone was paying for information about you." Tobin stared at him. Liora's brow furrowed. "This was before I entered his carriage." Cale nodded. "How long before?" "Months." Tobin's humor disappeared completely. The fire cracked between them. "That doesn't make sense." "No," Cale said. "It doesn't." Liora looked at Tobin. "Who would be searching for you?" "No one." His answer came too quickly. Liora noticed. Tobin shook his head. "I mean it. No one. Rennick wants money from me. Half of Greyhaven wants money from me. The other half would probably pay me to leave. Nobody searches kingdoms for Tobin Vale." Cale watched him. "Someone does." Tobin looked into the fire. For once, there was no joke. They left before sunrise. The Blackmere forest began thinning near midday. By afternoon, sunlight appeared between the trees. Real sunlight. Tobin had nearly forgotten what it looked like. Then the forest ended. He stopped the carriage. Liora climbed onto the driver's bench beside him. Ahead of them stretched a valley unlike anything Tobin had ever seen. Mountains rose on either side, their upper peaks white with snow. A river wound through the valley like silver thread, crossing beneath enormous bridges carved directly from stone, and beyond them stood Ellerin. Towers rose among ancient trees, not around them, among them. Some appeared carved from pale stone, others seemed grown from living wood, their balconies woven between branches hundreds of feet above the earth. Golden roofs caught the afternoon sun. Waterfalls descended between levels of the city. Tobin stared. Liora watched his face. "Well?" He took a moment before answering. "Your people are terrible merchants." Her smile disappeared. "What?" Do you understand what humans pay to visit this? Liora laughed. Cale approached beside the carriage. Beautiful, isn't it? Tobin glanced toward him. The city or the elf? Cale smiled. Yes. Tobin's mouth tightened. Liora looked between them and shook her head. Then her gaze returned to Elerin. The humor left her. Her eyes glistened. Home. Tobin looked at her. There was something intimate about witnessing someone see home after believing they might never see it again. He looked away before she caught him. They descended into the valley. The closer they came, the more Liora changed. She began pointing things out: the eastern watchtower, the old bridge, a grove where she had played as a child, a distant waterfall where, according to Liora, her brother had once convinced her there were river spirits that stole shoes. Tobin listened. He asked questions, more than he realized. For a little while, the key disappeared from the conversation. So did the wardens. So did the thing beneath the mountain. They were simply 3 travelers approaching a city. Then they reached the gates, and everything changed. The gates of Elerin were enormous. 2 trees older than Greyhaven itself grew on either side, their trunks incorporated into the walls. Between them stood doors of white wood reinforced with silver. Liora climbed down before the carriage had fully stopped. A smile broke across her face. "Open the gates," her voice echoed against the walls. For several seconds nothing happened. Then movement appeared above. Elven soldiers stepped onto the battlements. Liora laughed with relief. "Tobin." He climbed down. Cale came beside him. Something in Cale's expression bothered Tobin. The warrior was not smiling. "Cale?" Cale's eyes moved along the wall. "Get behind the carriage." Tobin frowned. "What? Now?" The first bow appeared, then 20 more. Arrows were nocked, all pointed downward. At them, Leora's smile disappeared. "What are you doing?" An elven officer stepped onto the wall. Liora stared at him. "Sereth?" The officer's face tightened. For one brief moment, something like pain crossed it. Then it disappeared. "Liora." She stepped forward. "Open the gate." Sereth did not move. Liora looked along the wall. More soldiers appeared. Her confusion slowly became fear. "Sereth." His jaw tightened. "By command of the Keeper, you are ordered to surrender the Black Key." Liora went completely still. Tobin looked at Cale. Cale's hand had already settled on his sword. Liora shook her head. "You don't understand." "I understand my orders. I escaped the King's Wardens. They were taking me north." Sereth's expression did not change. "I know." Liora stopped. Tobin felt something cold settle in his stomach. Liora stared upward. "What did you say?" Sereth swallowed. "We know." Silence spread across the valley. Leora's hand slowly closed around the key beneath her clothing. "They captured me." "I know. They chained me." Sereth looked away. "They killed a Varin." His eyes closed, only briefly. "I know." Leora's voice cracked. "And my father knows?" Nobody answered. That was answer enough. Tobin stepped closer to her. Liora did not notice. She was staring at the gates she had spent 2 days trying to reach. Home had become something else in front of her. Then horns sounded behind them. Cale turned. Tobin followed. Riders appeared on the road. Black armor, white tower, red crown, King's Wardens. Tobin slowly exhaled. "Of course." Cale drew his sword. The sound of steel leaving the sheath echoed across the bridge. Tobin looked at him. "How many?" Cale counted. 30. Tobin looked at the elves above them. "And them?" "More." "Excellent." Liora remained motionless. Tobin touched her arm. "Liora." "Nothing." He stepped in front of her. "Liora." Her eyes finally found his. She looked shattered. "My father knew." Tobin's expression softened. "We don't know everything yet." "He knew." "I know." "He sent them." Tobin couldn't answer that. A voice came from above. "Liora." Her entire body stiffened. The soldiers along the wall separated. A man stepped between them. He was tall and slender, dressed not in armor but in robes of dark green and silver. His hair was long, threaded with grey, and a narrow circlet rested across his forehead. Liora stared upward. "Father." The keeper of Ellerin looked down at his daughter. For several seconds his face revealed nothing. Then his eyes moved toward Tobin. They remained there. Too long. Tobin noticed. So did Cale. The keeper finally looked back toward Liora. "Give me the key." Her hand tightened around it. "You sent them for me." "I sent them for the key." Pain moved across her face. "I am your daughter. I know exactly who you are." "Then why?" The keeper closed his eyes. When they opened again, something had changed. Fear. Tobin saw it. The keeper of Ellerin was afraid. "Because you do not understand what you carry." "Then tell me." "I cannot." Liora laughed once. There was no humor in it. "You cannot. Not here." "You removed the pages." The keeper's face changed. Tobin looked toward Liora. Cale did too. She stepped forward. "The histories. The pages describing what is behind the door. You removed them." Her father said nothing. "Why?" The king's wardens were approaching. Cale looked behind them. "We're running out of time." Tobin ignored him. Something about the keeper's expression bothered him. Not guilt. Not entirely. Recognition. And every few seconds the man's eyes returned to Tobin. Tobin finally called upward. "Have we met?" The keeper looked at him. Liora turned. "What?" Tobin gestured toward the wall. "He keeps looking at me." The keeper's face became unreadable. Tobin stepped forward. "My name is Tobin Vale. I know." Everything stopped. Tobin's mouth slowly closed. Liora looked toward her father. Cale's sword lowered slightly. Tobin stared upward. "No, you don't." The keeper's voice carried across the bridge. "Edric Vale was your father." Tobin forgot about the soldiers, forgot about the wardens, forgot about the key. "How do you know my father?" The keeper did not answer. Liora looked between them. "Father." Another horn sounded, closer. The king's wardens reached the bridge. Their commander raised one hand. "Keeper." Tobin turned. The same warden who had searched his carriage at the roadside shrine sat at the front of the riders. His eyes found Tobin. Recognition appeared immediately. "Well?" Tobin gave him a weary smile. "Good evening." The warden's gaze moved toward Liora. "Your agreement with the crown remains. Return the key." Liora slowly looked toward her father. "Agreement?" The keeper's face hardened. "Liora, give me the key." "What agreement?" "Now." "What agreement?" Her voice echoed across the valley, and then the key moved. Liora gasped. Her hand flew to her chest. Tobin reached for her. "What?" The black metal beneath her clothing was vibrating, not gently, violently. Liora pulled it free. Every elf on the wall recoiled. The warden's horses began panicking. Cale stared. "What is it doing?" "I don't know." The key turned in Liora's hand, by itself, once, twice. Then it pointed downward, toward Ellerin. Liora stared at it. Her father went pale. "No." That single word changed everything. The keeper stepped toward the edge of the wall. "Liora, drop it." She looked up. "Why?" "Drop it." The ground moved, not shook, moved. The bridge shifted beneath Tobin's boots. Bishop screamed. Stone cracked somewhere beneath the city. Everyone looked toward Ellerin. Birds erupted from the ancient trees, thousands of them. The waterfalls trembled, then stopped. For one impossible second, the great waterfalls hanging throughout Ellerin simply ceased falling. The entire valley became silent. Tobin looked at Liora. Liora looked at her father. Cale slowly raised his sword. Then something beneath Ellerin took a breath. It was not loud. It did not need to be. The sound traveled upward through stone, through the bridge, through Tobin's boots. He felt it in his bones. Liora's father whispered something. Tobin could barely hear him. "What did you say?" The keeper looked down at them. All authority had disappeared from his face. All secrecy, all command. There was only terror. "It knows the key has returned." A crack appeared across the bridge. Tobin stepped backward. Behind them, the king's wardens began shouting. Above them, the elven soldiers broke formation. Then a sound rolled from beneath Ellerin, not a roar, a voice, ancient, deep, awake. It spoke one word. Tobin. He froze. Liora slowly turned toward him. Cale did the same. Every eye on the bridge found the merchant. Tobin stared at the city. His face had gone pale. After several seconds, he swallowed. "Well," Leora's eyes widened. "Well?" Tobin looked at her. "I was hoping for more time to think." The ground moved again. This time violently. A section of the mountainside beyond Ellerin split open. Darkness appeared behind it. Leora's father shouted from the wall, "Get them inside!" The gates began opening. Behind them, the king's wardens charged. Cale lifted his sword. Which direction? Tobin looked at the wardens, then the opening gates, then at Liora. She was staring at her father. Home was on one side, the crown was on the other, and beneath both of them, something that had been buried for 300 years knew Tobin Vale by name. Tobin drew his tiny dagger. Cale looked at it. Even now he couldn't help himself. Still carrying that, Tobin looked at Cale's enormous sword. Mine has sentimental value. Liora moved between them, the black key clenched in her fist. Her brown and green eyes met Tobin's. What do we do? For perhaps the first time in his life, Tobin Vale had no clever answer. He looked toward the opening gates, then toward the charging wardens. Finally, he looked down at the key and smiled. Not because he knew what to do, because he had finally accepted that he never would. "We survive," Cale grinned. Liora tightened her grip around the key. The three of them turned toward the opening gates and ran. Behind them came the crown. Ahead waited Ellerin. Beneath them, something ancient was waking, and somewhere in all of it lay the truth about the elf, the key, the keeper, and the merchant nobody was supposed to remember.